Radio Free Canada. We're in front of Parkinson Rec Center's bridge, right here on Highway 97 in Kelowna. Checking out a protest that's happening. Just got an email this morning, so let's check it out. Okay, now, who are you and what's going on?
All right, I'm Amy Cohen, and I'm an organizer with Radical Action with Migrants in Agriculture, or RAMA. And today we're here commemorating International Migrants Day. Today is the 14th annual, actually, day of the International Global Action for Migrants. It was inaugurated in 2000 by the UN, and the purpose is just to recognize the plight of migrants and displaced people and refugees all around the world. It also coincides with the ratification of the International Convention on the Protection of Migrant Workers and their family members. We're trying to pressure the government as well to ratify that, and especially bring kind of focus onto migrant workers, and particularly agricultural workers here in the Okanagan, who we believe are legally subjugated by their temporary status. And we believe that all migrant workers should have permanent status in Canada. And you know, our ultimate vision really is to have a world where there are no borders, where nobody is impeded by national immigration policies which are incredibly racist and exclusionary.
An eye-popping loophole in a government visa program, allowing big business to hire cheap foreign labor at the expense of Canadian workers.
It's time Canadians put their foot down and put an end to this. Companies are using subcontracting as a way to steal wages and benefits from employees that is supposed to be guaranteed by law. This is going to be a hot topic at election time.
In 2012, more than 200,000 temporary foreign workers came to Canada looking for a better life. Many found work at low-skilled, low-paying jobs in shopping malls and cleaning office buildings throughout the night. Danilo is from Manila in the Philippines.
In the cleaning company where I was working before, were treated very badly. We don't have the decent place to eat. They don't pay overtimes. They just pay us straight with $12 per hour.
Many foreign workers land jobs at fast food outlets.
They come at service sectors, working at food chains such as Tim Hortons, McDonald's, Pangeo, Dairy Queens. They hire a lot of migrant workers, and these workers work either at the front counter or cooking at the back. And these workers are generally, if I ask them, they would say, I'm satisfied, but relatively to Canadian workers, they are in different conditions. They are paid differently as well.
I see so many franchise owners who have bought houses and they house 14, 15 people in it, charge them all $400 a month rent, and make a fortune. So there's all these lovely little side benefits to, you know, hiring temporary foreign workers.
Danilo didn't know who to turn to for help when the supervisors mistreated the workers.
People are afraid to stand up by yourself because as soon as they stand up for yourself, the company, they can terminate their services. They can give them like a notice within 2 weeks.
The really ugly thing is these people truly are captive to their employers, because the obstacles faced by a temporary foreign worker to get a new job are overwhelming.
When signing the work contract, Danilo was not told that EI deductions will be taken from his pay, but he can't use the benefits, that he's only allowed to work in Canada for 4 years, and that he is not eligible to apply for Canadian citizenship.
I really think the whole idea was that clearly there was a need for people in low-skilled jobs. We were having a problem filling those jobs, and the political decision was, oh my God, we can't let low-skilled people immigrate here. So you come up with this whole program. So, well, we can use them, but then they leave. We don't let them stay. I think that's so disgusting. You know, this country was built on immigration of what we would now consider to be low-skilled people.
The Canadian government is an active participant of this importing of cheap and disposable labor, where they could use these migrants only for a certain period of time to work on certain industry and then dispose them if they don't need them anymore.
If we need people in our meatpacking processing plants, in our fast food outlets, then we should allow people to immigrate. And they should come here with the rights of a permanent resident, just like my parents and I did.
I wanted to go back home after 3 months, but I have nothing to go back home. I lost everything before I came here. So it's really hard to be away from the family. That's the hardest thing, to be here and your family is there. That's the hardest thing.
People are treated differently because they're workers, they're migrant workers. Just a quick rundown on that.
Okay, so temporary workers here in Canada, both agricultural workers and low-skilled workers who come on the temporary programs are legally excluded from a number of rights that Canadian citizens and permanent residents have. Especially, mostly their work permits are tied to a single employer, so they're much more likely to put up with abuses, poor working and living conditions, and not complain at all. So the Canadian government uses the lack of complaints to argue that these temporary foreign worker programs are working well, but really what they actually indicate is that the workers are just terrified to speak out because they have really very little political voice because of their temporary status. So in the case of the migrant workers, we know a lot of people who have been working here in Canada for decades and yet are still considered temporary and excluded from many social, legal, and political rights.
For decades? Seriously?
30 years.
And then they don't get like benefits, you're not getting UI out of the deal, is that what it is?
EI, they are not eligible to get EI.
Is that right?
That's right.
Is that CPP too, or they
pay into CPP, and they can in some cases access CPP.
Okay.
They used to be able to access paternal or paternity benefits like the universal, but in fact the government just precluded them from
just did that, this regime.
December 15th.
This year?
This year. They're no longer allowed to get paternity benefits, even though they pay into those. Yes.
And today, Mexico dominates the program in terms of the number of laborers sent. So much of the literature that I found spoke about Mexican workers. So one of the prerequisites for to be a seasonal agricultural worker from Mexico is that you must be married so that you'd have a reason to go back home. I argue that this is morally wrong because for 8 months of every year, you have to be away from your family, and the emotional and psychological trauma that the workers are put through is not taken into consideration. Secondly, I argue that by the very nature of the program, the employers have too much power. They control almost every aspect of their employees' lives. They can unilaterally terminate employment and have an employee back on a plane by the very next day. And this creates an environment of fear whereby employees try to accede to whatever the employers ask them, which include working extra hours and even weekend employment without necessarily being paid for it. Employers also have to provide adequate housing, and many of the times the employees are crowded together, like 12 people in a room, and it's not something that you or I would readily or voluntarily want to put ourselves through. This point ties into my next point, where because of all the power that the employer has, I argue that this program recreates colonial paradigms, whereby the workers are like indentured laborers, and the employers like the owner.
You said pressuring, so I'm just. How do you pressure?
How do we pressure the Canadian government?
Yeah.
Our organization tries to do that in several ways. One way is by raising the community's awareness on these issues, so doing events like this where we're out in the public and raising just the average Canadian person's awareness about migrant worker issues. And the other way we do that is trying to work alongside migrant workers to politically advocate. So do campaigns. We partner with other migrant justice organizations to come up with kind of campaign strategies to pressure the government at the municipal, provincial, and federal level. So that might involve writing letters, releasing press statements, trying to get involved. For example, yesterday I was at a meeting with the Federal Minister of Labour, Kelly Leach, and just asking them the questions specifically about the program and what they're going to do to change the situation for migrant workers so that they do have all the rights that Canadian citizens have. So those are kind of the ways and the strategies that RAMA goes about pressuring the government.
All right, so part of this conversation right now in Canada, in Toronto, is to buy local. So these are all most likely buy local products, right? We spend millions of dollars promoting buy local. But on the other side of the buy local campaign is a migrant labor force, right? So every time we're going in and buying and supporting our local industry, we are not thinking about the migrant workers who pick these products. We don't think about the exclusion they have to our immigration laws. We don't think about the health and safety discrimination, the workers' compensation laws that adversely impact these workers. We also don't think about the employment standards, the piece rate, and the impact that when you're working at such a fast rate to pick these vegetables or fruits, what it does to your bodies. And that if you try to get workers' compensation, well, you're going to be deported to another country. And mostly important to each one of us, that we don't think about the exclusion to the right to organize.
Okay, so where do we find you and how do we help out?
Okay, you can find us on Facebook. You can look for us, just search for Radical Action with Migrants in Agriculture on Facebook and like our Facebook page, and then all of our events and news will come up in your news feed. You can also go to our website, www.ramaokanagan.org, or you can email us at OLA, that's HOLA, at ramaokanagan.org.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
That was really cool. Good job.
Thanks.
So that's the inside scoop. That's what's going on. These are the guys right here. RAMA. I'm going to run the information on the bottom of the screen. Make sure you get informed about it. And also get informed about the shocking legislation put through December 15th. They just opted out a whole bunch of migrant workers from